All right. Call to order the Tuesday, December 9th, 2025 meeting of the City of Port Washington Board of Public Works. Roll call, all members are here except for member Pauly. First item, or actually third item, to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Anybody have any questions or comments on the previous minutes? If there are none, I will entertain a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Alderwoman Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Tierney. Any comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That'll move us on to item 4, public comments and appearances. Do we have any public comments or appearances tonight? Looks like we do not. Move on then to item 5, water supply service area plan presentation.
All right, I'll just do a quick introduction and then turn it over to Ben. But so water supply service area plan is a relatively recent requirement by the DNR. It was like June of 24, I believe. And earlier this year, we had hired Strand to do us to look at our distribution system and our water kind of master plan, our distribution system, which we will probably be hearing a presentation from Ben again next month or the month after with that plan. But as part of that plan, we decided let's incorporate the water supply service area plan that we need to do. Since that needs to be done by the end of this year, Ben is here tonight to explain the plan.
All right, thank you, Roger. Just want to check, make sure we get that presentation up. Thank you. So to reiterate real quick, the water supply service area plan was part of an add-on scope to the water system master plan we were already doing. So the timing of this was great. Like Roger just said, this plan is due by the end of the year. According to DNR regulations, the City of Port Washington's plan is not a quote-unquote reviewable plan. It doesn't have to be submitted, but nonetheless, DNR code says it has to be done and on file and available for viewing by the end of this year. Part of the code requirements is that a public hearing is required. So you'll note the date on here is December 16th. That's actually the date of the public hearing. We'll do a presentation on this plan, and the material we'll cover tonight is the exact same material that'll be on that public hearing presentation. So what we intend to cover here is the DNR regulations for the water supply service area plan, a brief overview of your existing water system, source water alternatives, the different service areas considered, recommended service area, and then we'll kind of open it up for questions at the end. Before I go any further, I also want to introduce Sydney Morgan as a project engineer with Strand, along with me tonight, very instrumental in completing this effort. DNR requirements for water supply service area plan are covered in NR 854. As Roger alluded to, this new regulation went into effect last summer. Broadly, any water utility in Wisconsin with a service population over 10,000 has to complete this water supply service area plan, and NR 854 has a prescribed scope for that. The overall intent is for utilities to think ahead about their long-term source water viability, and the scope addressed in NR 854 includes looking at a 20-year growth timeframe, alternate sources of supply, alternate service areas, again, coming up with a recommended alternative, and then for that recommendation, taking environmental impacts into consideration, reviewing consistency with other plans, and discussing cost effectiveness. Shown on this map is a brief overview of the existing water distribution system. hopefully one of the first things that catches your eye is the two different shades of purple and green. Those are the two different pressure zones in the city of Port Washington. The water plant is, of course, right on the lake shore downtown, and the purple area represents the low zone, which services all the lower elevation areas in the city. And then as we move away from the lake and kind of gain elevation as we move uphill, the city has a high service pressure zone. In order to pressurize that, there's 3 different booster stations that can move water from the low zone up to the high zone, and 3 water towers help kind of equalize pressures and provide storage. There are 2 source water alternatives that were considered: broadly remaining on Lake Michigan water and convert to groundwater wells. Now, this is somewhat facetious. We wouldn't recommend that the city convert to groundwater wells. This gets kind of back to the origins of NR 854, were originally intended for communities like Waukesha that were actually contemplating potentially switching. At some point, DNR thought that it was a good idea just generally for everyone to kind of just do a self-check and make sure that they're on the right kind of long-term path for their own utility. And that's why, we just have to consider an alternate. The only viable alternative to even contemplate would be groundwater. And the punchline here is we're going to recommend that you stay on lake water. So we're just going to touch on this very, very briefly. So first, remaining on lake water. What's great about that is, of course, the wastewater is treated and returned to the lake. This creates kind of a really nice cyclical water conservation, which leads to the long-term sustainability of Lake Michigan as a drinking water source. By nature of taking water from the lake and returning it to the lake, there's no impact on local aquifers, and it is the most cost-efficient. That's what you're already doing. In contrast, converting to groundwater would have an impact to local aquifers for dewatering those wells. Dewatering the aquifer with wells, and those aquifers have longer recharge times. We also just did a brief inventory of neighboring utilities. There are no neighboring utilities that have adequate excess capacity, whether that be Saukville or Belgium or whatever, to take on Port Washington as a customer. If we were to go that route, that means that the city would have to invest in constructing new groundwater wells and storage facilities and treatment facilities. Obviously, there's a significant capital cost. So we had to take a look at that to comply with NR 854 and kind of check the box and affirm that staying on Lake Michigan water is the most logical thing to do. This slide shows the 3 different service areas that were considered. Okay, so now we're getting into something of significant relevance. Service area 1 is on the left, and that is just the existing city municipal boundaries shown in the kind of gray area with the black outline. The blue area represents normal city growth that is kind of representative of areas that might open up for development between now and 2035. The red areas represent even more areas that might open up by the year 2045. The map in the middle there is Service Area 2. That's city growth plus the town of Port Washington toward the north. You can see that is everything from Service Area 1 plus the extensive area to the north there. Again, areas in blue kind of align with potentially being opened up for service by 2035 and red by 2045. And then lastly, Service Area 3 looks at just the city only, plus selling water wholesale to Saukville. Believe it or not, that's something that the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, or SewerPAC, has been recommended almost 20 years ago that Saukville should consider that. So those were the 3 what we considered actually viable service areas that were incorporated into this study. So we'll break down here in the next few slides just an overview of each of these along with the 20-year demand projections associated with each service area. So service area 1, everything in yellow is incorporated in the 20-year growth, and yellow represents residential land use. You'll see some contrasting colors on a future slide. Know that during the planning period, when we show these areas, we're not saying these are the areas that will be fully built out. Rather, we're saying it's potential that there's new growth and new development in these areas, and we're only expecting partial build out of these areas. To determine these areas, it's kind of based on known developments that where the developers perhaps approach the city engineer to inquire about the potential for development, et cetera. But overall, the demand projections are tempered at an annual population growth rate for the city projected out at approximately 2% over the 20-year planning period. So if all of these areas were to develop, the population growth would be significantly higher than 2%. But we're just overall tempering the demands to say that they will generally stay on a trend of 2% per year. This is what that growth would actually mean in terms of water demand. So this graph shows the water treatment plant capacity in orange. You can see the years 2025, 2035, and 2045 each represented there. And then the blue dots with the line there represent the demands that are being projected for each of those years. The water treatment plant right now has a rated capacity of 4 million gallons per day. And when we look at demand projections for the water system, we look at the maximum day in the year. So for 2025, that is approximately 1.94 million gallons per day, and we're expected to grow to 2.41 potentially by 2035 and 2.57 by the end of the planning period. You can see that's pretty moderate growth relative to the capacity of the water treatment plants, and the current plant has adequate capacity for the entire 20-year planning period. The infrastructure that would be of note that goes along with this, as I just stated, no capacity expansion would be needed at the treatment plant. However, part of what we found in our master plan effort is a new booster station would be needed to replace the existing stations, which are aging and kind of at the end of their useful life. New water mains to new areas of development shown on the previous maps, that would be needed. Those costs are normally borne by developers. Next, we'll get into service area number 2, which includes the data center and the service area into the town of Port Washington to the north, the Canalsville planning area, which is a special designated area within the town of Port Washington, and then almost at the behest of Sewer PAC, we also looked at ancillary growth areas that if the land identified for development presently were to develop, it's logical to think that there might be some adjacent lands that might develop during the next 20 years. So again, yellow on here represents residential land use, and then the purple color represents non-residential, generally a commercial industrial type land use. This next map breaks down the town service area in even greater detail. So the data center phase 1 is shown in yellow. Those are the first 680 acres for which there are specific building plans that have been submitted. But the pink area to the north is part of all of the lands that are owned and identified for that land use. The green areas represent some of those ancillary town areas that could potentially develop during the planning period. Again, we're not assuming full build out of those green areas, but just the potential that they could be opened up for water service. And the blue area is the town of Canalsville, or the Canalsville planning area within the town of Port Washington. The demand projection methodology for service area number 2 goes as follows. It's primarily based on land use, and this map that you're seeing is the land use map from the town of Port Washington for that Cannellsville planning area. I'll just continue to talk about Cannellsville first, which is the bottom bullet point here. So for Cannellsville and other town of Port Washington areas, standard planning values were used. There's a total, if you added up the blue and the green areas from the previous map, there's a total of about 340 acres that we planned at 275 gallons per acre per day. And that comes out to about 0.1 million gallons per day, or 100,000 gallons. The data center. Demands for the data center area, the entire approximately 1,700 acres, the demands were identified by the developer of that land. And the demands have evolved as we've moved through conceptual planning into site-specific design. So earlier this year, when it was still at a concept level flow estimate, the developer asked for 1.2 million gallons per day to serve the entire 1,700 acres. Now, as a frame of reference, that's comparable to like an industrial park land use that might have anywhere from 750 gallons per acre per day all the way up to 1,500 gallons per acre per day. If that was a normal industrial park land use, the flow demand we would account for would be anywhere from 1.2 MGD up to 2.5 MGD. But they asked for a conceptual planning level estimate of 1.2 million gallons per day. Now, as they've moved forward into the actual site-specific design of the first phase, which is about 680 acres, they refined their flow request based on specific building design and mechanical needs and water needs for those specific buildings. They revised their flow request for that first 680 acres to 0.02 million gallons per day, or about 20,000 gallons per day. That's 160,000 gallons less than the standard land use value that we used for Cannellsville. So far things are trending lower than the planning level request. Nonetheless, the demand projections on this incorporate that concept planning level flow request. So again, the solid orange bars represent the water treatment plant capacity, which is 4 MGD. The hatched orange bars above the lines there for 2035 and 2045 represents capacity that would have to be added to the water treatment plant if these demands were realized. That's due to maximum day demands growing to 3.87 MGD by 2035, which is, when you consider just level of accuracy here, it's essentially you're using up all of the existing plant capacity by 2035, and you would want to plan to expand the plant to add more capacity by that time. And then just really marginal growth from 3.87 MGD up to 4.05 MGD by 2045. By that time, it's expected that the entire data center area would have been built out, and that it's just partial build out of some of those ancillary residential areas that account for the extra, 0.18 MGD of demand that would come online over the next 10 years. This map shows broadly an infrastructure summary and a conceptual layout only of water mains to all of the service areas, new development areas identified for service area 2. So as stated, a water plant capacity expansion would certainly need to be in place by 2045, but we would ask that you monitor demands between now and 2035, as if those concept level demands are indeed realized, you might want to do that sooner. Just like service area 1, a new booster station is still needed to replace the existing aging booster stations. And then what's shown in the red and blue lines here are conceptual water mains to those new service areas. Blue lines represent water mains that would serve the 2035 growth areas. Red ones represent 2045 growth areas. I'll just go back and add that the actual layout of water mains would kind of be dependent on site-specific development plans that get reviewed one project at a time as new lands open up for development. Service Area 3, again, is just normal city growth, plus now in green, we're showing kind of the fringe of the Village of Saukville water system. It's contemplated in this scenario that Saukville would be a wholesale purchaser of water from the city of Port Washington. What that would mean is that Saukville maintains ownership and operation of their own water mains, water towers, their own assets, their own staff, their own billing, and that the city of Port Washington would provide one point of connection with a master meter, and then Saukville would be responsible for the water beyond that. For this scenario, it's assumed that transition would happen by 2035. And you see that reflected here in the demand projection. So the additional demand between now and 2035, you might recall that we were projecting that city growth only would increase demands from about 2 up to 2.4. There's another approximately 2.6 MGD that would come online associated with wholesale to the Village of Saukville. And then again, pretty moderate growth from 2035 to 2045, mostly just representative of normal city growth. In this case, you can see the demand, overall volume is a lot more significant, and certainly a water treatment plant capacity expansion would be needed before service to Saukville would begin. In addition, we'd still need not only a new booster station to replace the existing, but that booster station would have to have enough capacity to push that extra water kind of over the hill there to Saukville. Transmission main and a metering facility would also be required. This slide summarizes our recommendation. Source water, spoiler, remain on Lake Michigan. That is because it has the least environmental concerns. There's adequate capacity and water quality there with the existing lake as the source and the water treatment plant. It is certainly the most cost-effective to keep on using your current assets in Lake Michigan to supply your customers. Relative to service area number 2 is the recommendation. That is consistent with the sanitary sewer service area that is currently being amended to account for new development areas in the town. Service area number 3 was not considered very seriously at this point in time because there is no current formal request from Saukville. If Saukville were to approach the city of Port Washington in the future, this water supply service area plan can be amended to reflect that at any time. Concerning consistency with other plans for land use, the land uses that were the basis of the demands are consistent with the most recently updated city and town of Port Washington land use plans. And then the Sewer Pack Regional Water Supply Plan that was published in 2007 also recommended for the city to stay on lake water and actually expand the service area of the utility. This map is actually an excerpt from that plan. And forgive me, the plan was undertaken or commissioned in 2007 and was published in 2010. And this map is from that final published document. It shows the city of Port Washington recommended service area. You can kind of see between some of the gray lines there, Sewer Pack also accounted for expansion of the current water service area to the north into the town of Port Washington. It also recommended expanding the water treatment plant to serve not only the village of Saukville, but also to serve a consecutive system to the south there in the village of Grafton. So all of that to say, service area number 2 is consistent with Sewer Pac's regional water supply plan. And if a service request did come from the village of Saukville, that would also be in alignment. And again, this plan could be amended if that were to come to fruition. Lastly, cost considerations associated with the recommendations. Converting to groundwater, we roughly estimate that would be $55.5 million to build all new facilities to provide comparable water capacity that you have now. In contrast, expanding the existing water treatment plant capacity to 6 MGD at the time that becomes necessary, we're estimating would cost approximately $10 million. A new booster station, we've identified a high-level cost opinion of $12 million. And of course, there will be water main improvements, but again, those costs are mostly borne by developers. And those projects happen on a case-by-case basis at the time the request for service happens. That is all for the presentation on the summary of this plan. Happy to take any questions from the committee.
Service area number 2, when you give the projected cost, is that including the data center with the initial, the proposal amount, or was that with the updated amount?
Yep, great question. So when it comes to the demand summary here, it's still with the assumption that we're using the 1.2 million gallon per day higher kind of conceptual planning value.
Okay.
The reason for that is sort of twofold. The intent of NR 854 is that we consider what may be reasonable growth. And since they made the request for 1.2, we wanted to see what type of impact that demand would have on the utility. The other reality here is that there are not yet, to my knowledge, site-specific plans for the remaining 1,000 acres, and we don't know what the water use may actually be. Phase 1's trending a lot well under their 1.2 MGD, and if that holds true, then these demands likely would not get realized.
Okay, thank you. And do you know if Charter Steel is considered in the Saukville plan, the factory there? Do you know that?
Charter Steel's presumably an existing customer.
In Saukville?
Yeah, so what we did for Saukville is we just took whatever their current and projected demands are, and we didn't ask any questions and just added those demands into this. So if Charter Steel's an existing customer, then they were incorporated into this.
All right, any other questions? Yeah.
Just a couple of things about kind of related to the Saukville thing, and these are probably speculative, but in this type of situation, would it be likely that they would be using our water as a supplement to what they already have or a total replacement? And if, in the same manner, could they still use their own sewage treatment plant to treat sewage water, and because it's still returned to the lake from there, right? It just goes through the river system, I think.
Yeah, both are excellent questions. So DNR frowns upon mixing surface water with groundwater sources. Different things in the water chemistry, whether it's hardness or pH, cause kind of some unpredictable reactions with pipe walls that can lead toward, if there's any lead in home plumbing fixtures or brass or something like that, it can kind of have some problematic effects on that. So all of that to say, if Saukville were to be a customer, it would have to be all or nothing. A logical time for Saukville would be if they're having capacity problems or water quality issues that are going to be really expensive to treat, et cetera. But frankly, we didn't have any of those conversations with Saukville as part of this. This is kind of a high level, just is it even in the realm of possibility? And if so, what would it take to do that? Your second question was about the wastewater return. As long as that water does get back into the river system and does get back into the lake, then they could maintain their own wastewater treatment plant. If for some reason that happens to get into the Milwaukee River watershed, which I feel like I should know, but I don't know offhand, it gets into the Milwaukee River, which also ends back in the lake. So they would have to sort through that all with DNR, but it's most likely they'd be able to keep their own wastewater plant.
I know you explained it, but you explain again how you established 2% as reasonable growth?
Oh, sure. That's a great question. Let me just get back to that slide here. So the city engineer has received several inquiries about developing certain areas of land with a certain acreage associated with it, certain number of dwelling units, et cetera. All of the, we call those known developments. All the known developments are counted for in these yellow areas. If we didn't consider those, the city historically has been on a trajectory of 1% population growth, and we would probably just continue to assume 1% population growth. However, since there are a number of pretty recent site-specific developer requests, when we account for those, if those were all to get built out within the next 10 years, all known developments, there would kind of be a 10-year period of kind of a population growth that's a little off trend, meaning higher than trend. And then it would kind of, we're projecting from 2035 to 45, population would just continue to grow at 1%. So to really get into it, when you assume a certain number of people per household and a certain number of dwelling units per acre of new development, that means not all of this area is going to build out. So by identifying all of the yellow areas within the service area, we're saying, okay, this 2% growth, if you average it out over the next 20 years, it's 2%. It could happen in the Northwest. It could happen in the South. It could happen in one of these areas, but it's highly unlikely that all of these areas are going to reach partial build out. In fact, that 2% growth probably represents approximately what percent build out of these areas?
About, depending on the area, about 25 to 25%.
About 25% build out of the yellow areas is associated with that 2% population increase.
When you've done these studies in other areas and seen the reasonable growth is 2%, is that average? I mean, what's the high side? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It all somewhat depends. So in contrast, let's say another community where we've done demand projections for very recently is the town of Brookfield. So if you can picture like the Gerkes Corners area, kind of along where I-94 and Blue Mound Road kind of intersect there on the outskirts of Waukesha. You know, that area in the last 10 years has gone from parking lots to multi-story apartment buildings getting built and coming online every single year. So for a community like that, because of their site-specific redevelopment that they have going on and dense residential, you know, their Waterman projections are quite a bit higher than 2% per year. But really, quite frankly, 1% per year is consistent in Port Washington's history. It's consistent with all of Ozaukee County. But why we decided to go a little bit higher for these next 20 years is just because there are such a number of kind of known developments that have inquired about service. Therefore, you know, it's debatable whether or not population growth will actually stay on trend at 1%. But we wanted to account for known development as a this could reasonably happen scenario. So that's, I know I didn't answer your question directly, but I do want to just underscore it really varies community by community with what type of development activity is going on and what the planner, for example, may see on the horizon for a specific community.
I guess I have a more general question. With NR 854, how often do we have to revisit this plan?
That's a great question. So right now, and I alluded to this earlier, it is not a reviewable plan. So let me take a step back and just describe, in contrast, a community that has a reviewable plan that has to be submitted to DNR. DNR has to review it and approve it. That would be a community, let's say, well, the easiest one, again, is to pick on Waukesha. If you're changing water source, if you're creating a new diversion of lake water, then it becomes a reviewable plan. If you're going through development that is going to cause an increase in your water treatment plant capacity, then the plan becomes reviewable. So right now, with our recommendation for service area number 2, you would be required by DNR to update this plan before you could get approval to increase the capacity at the water treatment plant. So we're expecting that in all likelihood, city staff will just monitor demands and demand growth and demand requests as those happen and kind of stay ahead of it and work through that with DNR when those demands are kind of getting close, getting to be imminent that those are going to come online. That would be the kind of one event that would require you to submit this to DNR. So for non-reviewable plans, which is kind of where we're going to sit until such capacity is needed, they just state that the utility or the city has to review the plan every 5 years and update it as necessary. So you could review this plan 5 years from now and decide, yep, we're just staying the course and not have to update the plan. If you review it in 5 years and decide that something changed and this needs to be updated, you do it, that update at that time.
Okay. Also, this is maybe a little bit out of your purview on this, but since our sewage treatment plant is about the same capacity as our water treatment plant, I would presume that because assuming most of that water would be returned, that any additional capacity added to the water treatment plant would have to be mirrored with capacity addition to our sewage treatment plant.
Generally speaking, yes. However, the sewage treatment plant, and this is common in all communities, the sewage treatment plants are rated for a higher capacity than the drinking water treatment plant. And that's because, unfortunately, rainwater and groundwater tend to get into those pipes. So you'll see major spikes in the volume of water that goes to the sewage plant during heavy rain events. The sewage plant has to be sized to accommodate those so that there's no discharges of untreated or partially treated water. On the sanitary side, DNR actually requires that when your sewage plant capacity, when actual flows get to become 80% of the sewage treatment plant capacity, they make you do a detailed plan and start planning for that treatment plant expansion to stay ahead of it.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Thank you. Very interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll see you next week for round 2. Thank you very much for having us.
Okay, thank you. All right, that'll bring us to item 6, consideration and possible action on acquiring AquaHawk software to enable customer login to track and or receive alerts of water usage. Dan.
Okay, as you guys know, we are in the midst of changing out most of the meters. in our system from a conventional, traditional manual meter read system to an automatic metering system, an AMI system. So what that means is the meter is actually connected to a radio. And when we first started this program, the radio was read by an operator driving by and receiving the read from a handheld device. In 2022, we upgraded to the AMI system, which basically is a fixed base antenna system where all of those radios now send a signal to an online portal where we get hourly readings. So at the time of that, we had about 60% of the meters in the city changed out. So what we did is went on an aggressive path to change out the rest of the meters as fast as possible. And this is the next step in this process, is giving our customers access to their own metering information. Currently, with our meter setup, we have a program called Census Analytics, and this is connected to our billing software as well. What Census Analytics does for staff, for us, is we can look at the hourly, day-to-day meter information for customers. There is a dashboard that has different categories that we can investigate as far as alarms, or if there's problems with radios not communicating, and then just the general list of what meters we have on the system. So right now, we're in-house, we're taking this program and we're weekly looking at the continuous usage alarms that we receive. This is our way of checking to see if there are any meters that are pulling a read every hour for 72 straight hours. And when we see this, then we try to reach out to the customer as soon as possible via phone call or letter. But if we had this portal, the customers would be able to receive a text alert or an email alert or a letter alert. So what this software does is it basically gives any customer the ability to sign up their account, and then it's a web-based system, so you can look at it on your computer or on your phone. They don't have an app just yet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to. And like I said, basically they'll get all the information that we see on our Census Analytics system. So what we're recommending is to purchase the software this year, and the purchase price is $30,000, and that's for the initial software integration, the setup fee, and then maintenance support. And then year two, the fee would be about $14,000, and that's for maintenance fee and support. So I just want to say this stat because I'm pretty proud of it. We have changed out almost 1,800 water meters in a year and a half with our field staff alone. And right now we have about 400 left to change in the system. So we've really accelerated this program, and kind of excited to hopefully get this customer portal out there so people can see what they're using.
Any comments, questions? Yeah.
Dan, would this, are you guys going to get an alarm? You kind of might, I read through this and it talks about when there's an excessive use. Is there a way that the system is going to alarm you or alarm the customer?
So if the customer signs up and has the portal, they'll have the option of deciding how they want to get an alarm. They can set their own parameters. So even if they want to I don't want to use 2,000 or more gallons in a month, they can set that alert. So when they go over 2,000 gallons, they'll get a text, email to let them know that they are over a certain amount. And then the same with the continuous usage. So like I said, if it's an hour by hour usage on the meter, they'll get an alarm saying so.
Okay, cool. And there's a kind of there would be sort of an outreach program to teach the public how.
Oh, yeah,
How
yeah.
to use this and everything.
Yeah,
like that.
we definitely plan on doing a step-by-step guide. We'll have that on our website. We'll definitely come back here to the meetings. We'll do a little presentation on exactly how to do it. We'll have staff fully trained to receive any phone calls for help. We are kind of unique because we have so many meters in our system that are ready for this, whereas other communities are still struggling to change out their system. So we're kind of ahead of the game with other communities. So I do anticipate other surrounding communities moving to a similar system like this.
Do you have any examples of any communities that are successfully using this system?
Yeah, City of Oshkosh, actually, they're a really big one. They liked this AquaHawk system so much that they use it as their billing system.
Is that a different component of this that we'd have to pay more for?
No, but we have a separate billing system, so it would be us up to finance, I guess, to change if they wanted to.
Okay.
But yeah, so City of Oshkosh, they're triple the size of Port Washington, and they have a very, very good percentage of customers that sign up for this.
Anyone else?
Congrats on the 1,800 meter changes.
Thanks.
Impressive. Is the $14,000 for support in year 2, is that ongoing or is that just year 2?
Yeah, it's ongoing. To put into context, for the Census Analytics, Census is the brand of water meter that we have. So they offer the Census Analytics. The support is around $14,000 for that system a year. So this would be another $14,000 for the AquaHawk system annually, and then potential 3% annual increase.
City having recently refunded a large water bill, with something like this, would we set our policy then that the customer is responsible for monitoring their water usage because they can, and we would not be giving large refunds anymore? Or has there been any consideration to adjusting our policy or solidifying our policy and to go along with this?
Well, the refund was on the sewer portion of the bill.
Right.
So, water portions are required to be paid per PSC. So that's something, I don't know, Rob, if you have.
Yeah, just one other comment, just to make it clear. So to say it was a refund, it wasn't the fact that it was billed, but it was water that never went down the sewer. So there was never, there was no, the city didn't take a loss on treating water that got into the system. It never got into the sewer system. And so I think we'll probably still take things on a case-by-case basis. If somehow something slips past the AquaHawk system or whatnot, we would just have to evaluate it. But certainly this is an effort and a step in the direction of making sure that we catch any unintended water uses as soon as they occur.
So they won't go for a couple months before they're noticed?
Yeah, hopefully just a couple days.
We'll still do our weekly monitoring and contact customers. We're not going to rely on them using this system.
Right. I wouldn't fault a customer for not signing up and tracking their water usage.
So when one of my motion sensor sprinklers explodes, I'll get a notice on my cell phone instead of coming home and finding the water had been going for a day and a half.
Right.
It's all right. Any other comments, questions? So we're looking for a motion to approve this acquisition. I will entertain such a motion.
I'd move to approve the staff recommendation.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you, Dan. Well, we'll keep you up there. That moves us on to item 7, consideration and possible action on contracting Strand Associates for the development and planning of modifications to the hauled waste receiving station.
All right, we're going to move to wastewater here. So the wastewater department operates a septic receiving station. This station is located at the Mineral Springs Water Tower site. That is also where our tree farm is. And then we do have a drying bed that is used by the street department at this location that is connected to this septic receiving station. So it's kind of a mixed use by all departments. So this station is used by private haulers to come and dump anything from holding, septic, portable toilet waste, and one of our customers is brine waste. So the station averages about 13 consistent customers a year. We pull in about $300,000 per year from the customers. So with that, we want to make sure that this station is functional, up to date, and then providing the protections that we need down at the wastewater treatment plant. So what we're looking to do is hire Strand to basically look at options that will be available for this station specifically, for them to give us options of upgrades on equipment or additions of equipment that we can use in this station, as well as the sanitary sewers downstream from the station. And then also look at our actual customers and what kind of waste and how much they bring into this station and what that does to the treatment plant downstream. Are we losing money treating waste, from these haulers down at the wastewater treatment plant, or are we, actually making money from what they're bringing in? So part of this would be to update our sampler that we have on site that actually hasn't worked in many years. So this, what the sampler does is basically every time a new load is dropped off into the tank, just a grab sample is taken, and that gives staff the ability to take a sample and send it into the lab to see what's really being delivered at the station, as well as adding a flow meter. So right now, the haulers are all on the honor system. So right now, they show up, they unload their load, and then they write down on a ticket who they are, where they were, what kind of waste it is, and then how much. So that is not how it's done pretty much everywhere else right now. We'd like to know exactly what's being dumped in the station, and then exactly how much. We're not saying people are dishonest, but it's to protect us and the treatment plant. And then another part is adding a better screening system for what is dumped inside the system. So portable waste can be pretty, I wouldn't say toxic, but it has a lot of unknowns inside of it. So what we want to do is we want to filter a lot of that stuff out before it gets into the sanitary sewer and makes its way downstream. So a better screening system would be beneficial for the plant. So we would like to look at what kind of, screening system we could upgrade inside this tank. And then as well as just looking at the actual site and then the maneuverability of the trucks that come in. We have some large tanker trucks that come in, and it's kind of a difficult process for them sometimes, especially in winter with the snow buildup, to get their tankers in, to turn around, to get set up, and they're always on the go, so they want to be able to come in and go, as needed. We want to upgrade the lighting around the station, as well as add some cameras for security. So again, we want to help our customers, but we also want to improve our situation down at the wastewater treatment plant.
All right, any questions, comments? Yeah, it sounds reasonably. I just looking at the monthly revenue streams. We had a really successful August from the looks of things.
I knew that was going to come up. So the plant does take other waste besides just our normal customers, and about half of that was from an environmental engineering company that delivered some waste that was, the charge for that is very expensive, so that's why the cost is a little higher.
So when we get like a environmental disposal firm like that, do they have to do special testing ahead of time then?
Yeah,
too?
so we won't accept it without sample results first.
Okay.
And then once, if it is okay, then we'll accept it.
Okay. Just make sure that you don't take away from the tree farm. That's been very successful for us.
No, this isn't anywhere close to that.
Okay.
I mean, it is, but
Well,
it's far enough away.
Okay. Yeah, they just need better turnaround space. So, all right. If there are no other comments or questions, I will entertain a motion on this item. All right, we have a motion to approve by Alderwoman Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Tierney. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. That moves us on to item 8, consideration and possible action on award of the Lift Station 3 generator upgrade project. Roger.
All right, so Lift Station 3, for those that don't know, that's the lift station right outside the Newport Shore condominiums that recently was painted with a mural. So anyway, the generator in there's got to be original with the lift station. We can't. It's getting hard to get parts for it to replace it. It's undersized. It doesn't run the full lift station. So we're looking at replacing the generator, and then along with that, all the electrical components in the lift station don't match what We Energy supplies for that area, voltage-wise and phase-wise. So we're just going to upgrade all the electronics, and then there's some minor well improvements that we're doing with this project also. But so anyways, we received a little bit of $208,000 roughly. Our budget was $210,000. We had a second bid for $250,000. Would be nice to have a third bid, but we only received a $2. So I'm not familiar with Will Surge, but our engineer on this job, it does know them and said we should be fine with hiring them. They met all the bid requirements.
All right. Any questions? Alderman Miller?
Is it budgeted
It is a budgeted project, yep.
for 2025 or 2026?
2025.
Thank you, sir.
And I did talk to Mark that most of these expenses are going to occur in '26, but it's, yes.
With the new generator going to fit inside the current building, or is it going to be placed outside?
No, it'll be outside. It'll also have a sound enclosure on it.
Okay, so we're going to hide a little bit of the of the mural.
Yeah, we're trying to pull it away from the building as much as we can for that reason.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve awarding the project to Will Surge.
I'll motion to approve.
I have a motion by Alderwoman Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Haley. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That moves us on to item 9, consideration and possible action on construction change order 1 on the 2025 utility extension project on County Highway LL. Roger.
All right, so this is change order 1, as you mentioned, first one on this project. So what this really is a result of is this sewer connection that we wanted for this project. has to run through the Whitetail Hill property, the Northport Group. We weren't able to attain an easement with them prior to bidding the job, and we did subsequently. So as part of that easement, as we're putting the sanitary sewer in, it's reasonable to put the sanitary laterals into where their planned lots are going to be. So that's, let me go down. It's really right here at Terrace Drive and coming up, and then what they call Archer Street to LL. So roughly, I think there's like 15 laterals in there. So they will reimburse us for that cost, which is roughly $121,000 of the $122,000, and then the remaining $1,000 of the change order it has resulted in a second mobilization for erosion control. So. I guess that $1,000 is on us. So we recommend approval of the change order. The Whitetail Hills people were reasonable to work with, and we hope this triggers development of that property.
So with this, and we're putting in, I believe it's a 16-inch sanitary sewer through here? 18-inch. So we're just, it's fairly deep, so we're gonna, this is gonna be risers down to each one? Or?
About 6 of the lots require risers.
Okay. Because I was kind of curious with that, if with the 16-inch main, whether it made more sense to have a parallel like 8-inch system it just dumped in at the end versus having a connection along each, along the 6 or the 18-inch everywhere.
Yeah.
I presume it doesn't. It makes sense just to do a lateral in each one, or it's equivalent costs, or.
I would say you're correct. I know our Kapoor did this design and did evaluation. We didn't specifically talk about that, but they said this is the way to go.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? No. I guess the only thing I would say is I think the lots are too wide here, and that on your map of value density, this is going to grade out very poorly in the future. But the Plan Commission does what the Plan Commission does.
Actually, and they added a lot, because we talked pretty much same thing. We just look at the houses on Terrace Drive already, how they're spaced. So they squeezed another lot in.
Okay. All right. I guess aren't any other questions or comments. I'll look for a motion to approve the change order, or change order 1.
I'll move to recommend the staff recommendation and approve the change order.
All right, we have a motion. Oh, yes.
I'd like to interject a comment. One other element of this change order is a time extension on the contract. Originally, it was supposed to be installed by January 1. Delays with at DNR and everything else became a March 1 delivery date.
Yeah, and one last thing then, too. The extra $1,000 is going to be charged to TIF 5, correct?
I would anticipate that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, with the rest of the project.
All right. So we have a motion by Alderman Tierney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Haley. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Then we'll move on to item 10, consideration and possible action on rejecting the 2025 sidewalk maintenance project bid.
I don't think we've ever got that one before.
All right, so we bid our sidewalk job, which is basically sidewalk replacement, and we included concrete leveling or mud jacking with that project. Project budget is $110,000 or $115,000. We had estimated at $110. Bids came in at $123. I should not say bids. The one bid. So just based on it being over budget, over estimate, really just so close to 2026. We called a few other contractors and discussed about rescoping this and bidding it again, and it just seems that's the way to go.
All right, any questions, comments? If there aren't any, I will entertain a motion to approve the staff recommendation to reject the bid for the 2025 sidewalk maintenance project.
Should this, should this include a motion to rebid it next year, or is that just assumed?
No, I would just say let's reject the bid, just leave it clean.
I'll move to reject the sidewalk repair bid.
All right, we have a motion by Alderman Tierney. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Nick?
You want it? Oh, second by Nick, by Mr. Sudendorf. Sorry. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So that should bring us to review staff monthly reports.
All right, I don't know if there's any questions. Really, the only update I can give for those staff reports is, and I think most of you were here, we had a very successful public information meeting tonight for Valley Creek. Great to get feedback from the residents. We're certainly the purpose of this project is to serve the needs of our residents out there and not only protect them from flooding, but to improve recreational opportunities and stormwater quality. So, great to see all the interest, and we got all their contact information. We will certainly have additional public information meetings in the future as we proceed. But again, great to see such interest in the project.
Was the public information meeting recorded along with this meeting?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So you'll have a link up with that.
Yeah, we'll have to. We may put it on the engineering webpage.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
One thing, Rob, with that too, there was a mention on the other day about the plan is available online, the whole,
Yes. So there's a story map, and I put
yeah, the
that
story
in,
map,
yep.
that's what, maybe
So if you-
reemphasize that.
Yep. If you go to the engineering page on our website under the Valley Creek tab, or if you go to the LNRP, like Lakeshore Natural Resources Partnership webpage, you can click on a link to the story map, and that gives all the background information on the project. So we're working on some additional educational materials for it. One of the benefits of this project, and we have, quite frankly, a fairly large design budget, is education and outreach, so that we're really going to not only do the project, but tell the story of the project. So the story map is the first step, and I'm hoping to get something, because we have drone footage of the entire creek, to have essentially a voiceover with a video and show what we're doing. So, we're working on that, but we do have that up on our website, and I hope people visit it.
One other thing, Mike. As somebody that got caught with the curbside leaf collection, most of my leaves are under snow right now. But I was happy to see I think it bears the fact that we're going to continue a 1 to 2 week period in the spring when people are going to be able to get their leaves into the gutter and get them picked up again. I don't think we've ever had to do that before.
I want
But
to say we did
I
it
think it's
once.
going to be a good service for the homeowners.
I want to say we did it once before. Which brings a lot more people to bring out more stuff into the curb. But that goes with the territory. No, kudos to JD and the street department. JD had a good handle on what was out there, saw the forecast, of course, and knew that it would be a mess if we plowed leaves in addition to snow into people's driveways. And so they worked, instead of having the 4-day weekend like the rest of us, they came in on and worked on Friday till like 8 or 9 at night, and got as many of the leaves as they possibly could before the storm came on Saturday. And of course, they were back at it working on snow removal. So anyhow, it was-
Kudos, yeah.
Yeah, kudos to them. They really gave up their Thanksgiving weekend to get the job done.
All right. Anything else on staff reports? Is that it?
Not unless there's any questions from any of them.
All right. Then we'll move on to chairman's business, and I don't have any business. So members' liaisons business. Anybody have anything? Seeing nothing. That brings us to item 14, public comments and appearances. Are there any public comments or appearances? Seeing none. The next meeting will be January 13th, 2026 at 5:30 in these chambers. So I will then look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Alderman Tierney, second by Alderwoman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.